Hello and welcome to TNA Top 10 2024 football preview. I'm here with Andrew and I'm T Weave. And now that Andrew has unmuted and I verified that, how you doing, Andrew?
Look, you told me to mute between shows, and that's what I did. I am following instructions, Dad. Do not start your shit with me. I see you. I see you went and filled up a drink. That must mean we talking football.
We are talking football and a lot of it. Not a lot happening this week, obviously, because week 0 has one game that's worthy of a whole lot of mention and what, 4 other games or something like that. But we will talk about it at the end.
Yep, we certainly will. Here come the Bulldogs. They're running. I hear them barking. My goodness, we're gonna start early. We're gonna start early.
So why don't we? I mean, we can go ahead and talk about it now. We got Florida State and Georgia Tech. Is it in Dublin? Is that? I know it's in Ireland.
I believe that's the locale. It is in Dublin, and one of our buddies is going to see it live, which
That's right.
I'm sure his wife is just ecstatic about. As I mentioned,
I believe she may also be a Florida State person. So
well, she might be. She might be, but I have to tell.
Well, you know, they're in Barcelona today. That's probably the trade-off.
Yeah, the running of the Bulls literally happens in Barcelona, not the running of the Bulldogs, which you all just got to see live on the air. So anyway, these no, the Georgia Tech game. Georgia Tech is up and coming. Dave seems to be a little concerned about them stubbing their toes, that sort of thing. I think honestly,
First game of the year, it's tough. You don't know.
Well, but with Florida State, your talent level is so high there that everybody has a puncher's chance. I get that. But I think the talent level at Florida State is so high and they are so deep that Georgia Tech probably loses this one. It might be late, but you're talking 3 or 4 touchdowns, honestly. I mean, I think it'll be that big. They need DJ to have a huge game as the new trigger man in the quarterback position. They've got good receivers that Dave thinks are untested. I would agree with that. If the offensive line can give DJ a clean pocket to throw out of, they'll be pretty good. Of course, he's had stops at both Clemson and Oregon State. Did a really nice job for Oregon State with a limited amount of resources because let's face it, Terry, if you're going to Oregon or you're going to Oregon State, and you're a recruit in the northwestern part of the country, it's quack quack all day. You're not going to beat the country. So
unlimited NIL now. Apparently.
Well, and we never really mentioned that, but you can go ahead and tell our listeners about it, Terry. The what is he? The owner or the not an owner?
Did he originate Nike?
Yeah, and he's giving them a blank check.
Yeah,
because he wants that national championship, buddy.
That's why they have 50 different uniforms.
I don't know. What else? But one other thing is J.J. McCarthy. I know we don't talk a lot of pro football, but he was the quarterback that led Michigan to the national championship last year, a game facilitator. He's out for the season already with the had a meniscus tear, I believe it was. And so he's already out of the pro season for the Vikings.
Meniscus tear is a season-long thing?
That one was, I guess, yeah, because he had soreness in his knee and it became diagnosed as a tear, and they've already performed surgery and they have said it is a season ender for him.
Okay.
So
interesting.
And I don't know of too many other injuries notable injuries we know, but I mean, we'll get to Michigan, I'm sure, at some point talking about.
At some point, yeah.
Yeah, they're black of Blake Corum and JJ, and of course, our favorite coach, now the head coach of San Diego, Mr. Harbaugh. So, I saw a meme, made me laugh, speaking about Michigan, since we don't have a whole lot on the intro schedule here, that there's only one man that can fix Michigan, and it's Urban Meyer because of his character and his standing inside of football. And it made me laugh. That's a deep cut. That would be something.
Imagine that. Urban Meyer go to Michigan.
Especially being a Buckeye, But Urban Meyer also said that Nebraska is the sleeper team in the Big Ten. So there you are.
So what a genius this guy is, right?
We're getting endorsements from a 3-time national championship coach, 2 in Florida, 1 at Ohio State. Had pretty good programs he coached for. But anyway, Terry, I'm not even sure what's on the agenda. Do we have notes for this?
I mean, we do have notes for this. You even put some in there. You put something about David Sanders, the #1 offensive lineman.
Oh, yeah.
commit.
Number one offensive lineman in the country. Nebraska was up to get him. He has committed to Tennessee. Here's the thing, though. And I said this last week. I'm going to say it this week. I'm going to say it for the next 15 weeks. Unless you win, it doesn't matter because, quite frankly, committing to a university is not the same as it used to be.
Right.
So Nebraska and Tennessee were in the final pick'em, if you will, for David Sanders, who is the number one offensive lineman in the 2025 class. Nebraska fans greeted Mr. Sanders when Raiola brought him to campus. Over 1,000 people there to welcome him. Apparently, Josh Heifel's a hell of a salesman and convinced Mr. Sanders that he needed to come to Tennessee. Some of that may be money, quite frankly. We don't know how those conversations go, but anymore, if they're a number one anything, even a punter, you can assume somebody's getting paid. And
that's right.
I'm
I'm counting on for Cyrus in a few years.
exactly.
Keep playing soccer until he can get a scholarship and some NIL money.
How many soccer-style kickers have you seen, Terry?
They're all soccer-style kickers.
Exactly. So, anyway.
What about Deion Sanders? Is he getting along with the media these days?
He is not. Did I send you this where he got on CBS Sports? Or did I just tell you about it?
I don't know. It's probably sitting in my reels.
This is
and
the part
I haven't watched it yet.
Where he this is the part where he was ranked the second to worst coach in the Big 12. And it was done by CBS. CBS Sports lands him at the bottom of the list. So a CBS Sports affiliate decides they want to ask a question and he says, "Who are you with, CBS?" I don't talk to you. I'm not dealing with you people or something. He says, "I'm an affiliate out of Denver." He says, "I don't care. You work for CBS." And to Pondwater Dave's point, it was very uncomfortable. And then in the same press conference, somebody said something about chemistry, and he says, "Y'all don't even have chemistry at home." And so Deion being Deion, quite frankly, this is probably the last season for Coach Prime in Boulder.
Yeah.
That is going to be one of my early season predictions. I don't know that he makes
it. Gone. I don't think anything holds him there.
And I don't think he makes it through the season, quite frankly, Terry. He may, but Colorado seems to think that they're going to be this national championship contending powerhouse. The reality of the matter is they haven't beaten anybody.
Right.
And their first test is September the 7th under the lights, Tom Osborne Field Memorial Stadium. But they've got to get by.
Is that going to be a sellout, Andrew?
Yeah, well, it's going to be a sellout. It's going to be number 397 consecutively since 1962 for those of you playing along at home. Terry, I am not a seal. Do not put a ball on my nose and expect me to bark. But the bottom line is with this is also Sanders, and we'll preview the game maybe. I don't know. I don't think it's probably worthy of being previewed. They drew North Dakota State. North Dakota State is an FBS 2 school, but they're a pretty good school. They've won several national championships
for years
at the Bison. So it's not that they don't know how
Bisons,
to play
they call it. They say Bisons.
But it's not that they don't know how to play. What's his face? The Philadelphia Eagles quarterback with the rifle in his arm, redhead. And then he went to Philly. He came out of North Dakota State, 3-time national champion. And I forget his name right off the top of my head, but he won a Super Bowl with Nick Foles. Foles ended up being his backup. But it's a redheaded guy.
Yeah.
And I forget what his name is off the top of my head. But he...
Who you're talking about?
Who?
Carson Wentz.
Carson Wentz, yep. He came out of North Dakota State. Or North Dakota. So big time cannon in his arm too. But anyway, Coach Prime may be 0-2 after September the 7th. I certainly hope so. But I thought we would mention that Prime is very antagonistic towards the media. I don't know, quite frankly, that that's beneficial, but that's him. That's not me. I don't care.
That's who he is. He's going to do it his way. If you don't like it, he's not going to like you, and that's just kind of how he does business. Whether he's successful or not, that's how he's going to do things.
Yeah, and one more unbulleted item because I forgot to mention it. Coach Matt Rule for the Nebraska Cornhuskers has closed practice. This has led to a lot of chatter because there was a video released of him chomping on him, telling him, you guys have people in front of you and all of a sudden you don't do things the way you do them because you think you're going to look dumb and all this other stuff. I have all of the faith and trust that he knows exactly what he's doing by closing practices to family and friends and to the public and everybody else. He has not made the announcement yet, but it looks like Dylan Raiola will be the second freshman to start at Nebraska since Touchdown Tommy. However, he was very, very, very high on the second quarterback as well as Heinrich Harburg. So on Danny Killian, he's very high on Danny Killian. Says if he can develop, he can grow, he can get a little bit bigger. He's got a great mind for processing. It would not shock me, Terry, if you saw a 2-quarterback system at Nebraska with Heinrich actually playing a receiver position.
I'm sure we'll get to Nebraska a little bit later in the show. One thing that
we may or may not. I want to spoil something for our audience real quick. Top 25. I told everybody who listens to this show all about the Kool-Aid and all that. Right. But I also said I would not rank Nebraska in the top 25 for the first 5 games. I did not rank Nebraska in our top 25 this week.
All right. We'll see if they show up. I will say things that are not bulleted, and we've kind of talked about it in the other preview shows, but it's worth mentioning again here. We've got a lot of teams in new conferences, and if we're going to preview the season, that is a huge story. And the expansion to the playoffs, we will get into some predictions for that later in the show toward the end. But the first thing that we need to get to is the poll that we did. And we thank everybody that voted. We'd like to get more people voting. If you have any feedback on that. And what we did this time, we are the TNA Top 10. We did have people vote for 25. If, it's possible that you don't want to vote for that many. If that's the case, let us know, because, that's the kind of information we need to know. Because I got to tell you, when you and I did it last year, we voted for 25. We came up with the top 10 and we presented that. That was me and you texting each other. Now we've got a system where we've got a website we go to. Anybody that's voted on any of our polls, the website that we use, and our buddy Peter from who knows where helps us out sometimes there.
Not Peter from India. Terry refuses to tell the truth on this show. Go ahead, War Eagle.
It's what he calls himself. But there's a lot of scrolling involved. So I'm thinking, that might be something that you guys don't want to do, because I got to say, when I did it, it felt like a lot. So if you feel like you'd rather just vote for 10, let us know that. We want to know that.
That's what she said.
I think the science, though, as we've agreed, Terry, will be the same. That it's going to be the top 25 coaches and AP polls along with those receiving votes. Those are going to be your choices. Right. And that way it eliminates any bias Terry or I have. You can blame all of them, not us.
That's right. Mostly the coaches, because the coaches are notorious for not being the ones that vote and handing it over to somebody that doesn't know what they're doing.
Correct.
So you get a lot of others which receive votes. But
Nebraska received 36, buddy. 36.
36
votes for the top.
Let's
25.
let's go ahead and see if they got any votes for our top 25. Here's 11 through 25, kind of the same format that we used with the bottom 8, bottom 6 in the conference shows. And I've got them in order here. Penn State is the first team outside of the top 10. Then we've got Missouri, LSU, Iowa, Tennessee. Auburn is at 16. That's a little higher than I expected. Oklahoma State, Oklahoma, Washington, Miami, USC, Arizona, Stanford, Maryland, and Nebraska slides right in at 25.
You meant Louisville, not Stanford.
I did mean Louisville, not Stanford, because Stanford has no business being anywhere near this.
Correct. They're awful. So first exception I'm going to take with our fans, Missouri's too low. LSU's probably right. Auburn's a little high. Nebraska's a little high. Nebraska's proven nothing to anybody except that they can recruit and build a team. Now they have to go play. I said that last week. I said it before. USC is probably a little low. Washington, you guys are giving way too much credit to. There's going to be a substantial fall off on that team. I like where our people are with Miami, though. I'm not going to lie about it, Terry, because fuck them. The Hurricanes, I can't stand them.
I think Arizona may be low here, honestly.
Arizona's probably low. Penn State is probably low, to be honest. But
I said what I said last week about Penn State, but I don't know. At this point, you probably got to give them a little bit of benefit of the doubt until they start losing some of those big games like I expect. But
yep. But this is the first week, and this is why this is fun, guys. We're going to go through the top 10 now, I suspect, Terry, unless you have – I mean, I think our voters got the LSU thing right. I think that's probably where they belong and probably where they'll start and finish is in that middle
in comparison, and we talked about how much are we going to talk about the AP and the coaches polls because we're using it as our basis for our options. But in comparison here, let me run through. So like the AP, I'm not going to recite all of them. Of the teams here, Penn State's number 8 in the AP. So they're 3 below.
Yeah.
In our poll, they're 3 below. So that's not too bad. Missouri's 11 in the AP, and we've got
right
12 here.
Yeah.
I honestly think Missouri's better than what they are in the AP. I don't see
Nebraska and Auburn were not in the AP poll.
Right. They had votes, but they were not in there. I think we're probably going to get, honestly, based on our fan base, we're probably going to get some higher votes for Auburn and Nebraska, at least until they stink something up.
Correct.
So
till I scream, quit voting for my Huskers.
Because I don't know how many times in my life I've said Auburn's the best 4-loss team in the country. That kind
of. Well, that's what I told you the one year.
Nebraska.
We talked about this. Nebraska went 3-9 the one year, lost those 9 games by a total of 47 points. Every single one of them was a 1-score affair. Okay, great. You're the best 3-9 team in the country. Who gives a shit? But they play to the end.
Yeah, let's just not lose at home to New Mexico State. And when I say that, I mean Vanderbilt, because New Mexico State just kind of moved to Nashville. Quarterback and head coach are now at Vanderbilt.
At Vandy, or as we like to call them around here, effing Vandy. Terry, what's number 10?
Number 10, Ole Miss. A little bit low, in my opinion, here.
Way low. Jackson Dart returning, big game Lane, the offseason they have. But again, they've got to get it done, and they've got to get it done when it matters. Lane Kiffin lost 2 games last year, and that was to Georgia big time, and it was a closer game to Alabama. Ole Miss belongs in the top 10 for sure. I think you guys are a little off on this one. But again, that's the fun of this, is that none of it matters until you actually snap the football.
I think there's some parallels here. I said what I said about Penn State. Was it last week? Yeah, I guess it would have been last week. I think Ole Miss is similar. Lane needs to win some big games.
And he did the bowl game against Penn State. However, we always have to put the asterisk by the bowl games now because not everybody is playing.
Yeah, and I think until he can actually knock off some of these big teams in the SEC, I'm going to have a ceiling for him. Now, I didn't put him at number 10. I definitely put him higher than that. Mm-hmm. But Ole Miss is a team that I'm looking for Lane to get over that hurdle. And maybe this is the season for him to do it.
And this might be the season. Of course, his father, the great Monty Kiffin, died. Of course, he's tied to Nebraska as was one of the defensive coaches. I believe he coached linebackers. The Tampa 2 defense was created by Monty Kiffin. So Lane has obviously spent a lot of time dedicating things to his father. I think Kiffin has the team to go for a run and run deep in the SEC. And I know we're going to get to playoff predictions before the show's over. But I think they're better than 10, Terry. And that's just based on the fact that you and I read all of the stuff, all the offseason. I send you everything, even if you don't watch all my reels. You understand.
I eventually do. It just takes a while sometimes.
But Jackson Dart coming back is a huge piece too, particularly when Ole Miss is an offense first team. Make no mistake about it, guys. Jackson Dart should be on the early Heisman watch list. He is an incredibly gifted quarterback with good vision, good arm strength. He got better and better as the season went on last year, and that's kind of what we're looking for this year. To Terry's point, though, it doesn't matter until you win big games, and that's why we call him Big Game Lane. It's an ironic nickname, folks. He hasn't won any big game. Well, against Penn State, he won the big game against Penn State, but just has not gotten over the hurdle, as Terry calls it. But he's got these monsters in the SEC that have really just thwarted that, I would say.
And there's more monsters now. Texas is sitting there in the way.
Yeah, Texas, and we just saw Oklahoma, Tennessee, and LSU in the bottom. The 15. They're in the top 15, so it's not like they're that bad either. Anyway,
right.
I'm looking forward to seeing what Ole Miss can do.
It should be fun. It should be some definite close games, even if they don't win them. And we have friends that are hoping for a lot of wins for them. So for you guys, we hope they do it.
And one other thing before you click the button, Terry, because of their offense, they're always going to be in the game unless Georgia does to them what they did last year. That offense is high speed, high octane, and Lane's calling it. So make no mistake about it, their offense first. If he can get some stops, they might win a few more games this year. Click us for number 9, buddy.
Number 9, defending national champions, Michigan Wolverines. This is reasonable. Even though they got a vote for first place in the coaches poll, that's just one of those stubborn people that says the champions are the champions until they lose, I guess. But Michigan is number 9.
I feel like this is probably the right place for them. They lost a lot, including the head coach, half of the coaching staff. They've had the scandal with Connor Stallions, who apparently took a defensive coordinator position at a high school there recently.
Wow.
Yeah. They've got J.J. McCarthy, we talked about at the Open. He's in the NFL. Blake Corum is gone. So there is a lot that Michigan has lost. I think the biggest thing that they lost is indeed the head ball coach, Jim Harbaugh. I think that's going to make a big difference. He was a player's coach. They bought in. They believed in him. I understand he didn't coach 6 of those games last year. He was at the practices, guys. He was still calling the shots. He was directing everything that happened. And I think that more is going to be on a very short leash and a very short timetable. If he doesn't deliver, they will not renew his contract. He will be gone very, very quickly.
They could surprise us. You know, there's teams that do that. We expect them to fall, and they just keep going. Question is can Michigan stay at that level? And I don't know. I just don't think so, but we'll see. They could prove us wrong. There's always that one team. Last year, we kept saying Washington was going to lose, and they didn't.
Yep.
Maybe Michigan's that team this year. Number 8, Florida State. Maybe a little low. Compared to teams from the ACC that I haven't seen mentioned yet, I think they are low.
Agreed, because they are the best team in the ACC plus Notre Dame.
Right.
And it's not even close. Dave and I talked about this. Our buddy Dave in the HSV, who will be on for a Florida State show at some point this season, said that he thought he was very comfortable with them being number 10 because then the expectations are not so high. And you're still a playoff team. And he's got a point there. If you're going to put 12 in, Terry, you're still a playoff team. So I think Florida State's better than 8, but they're going to have to prove it. They don't get the opportunity to prove it, though, until Clemson, I don't think.
Yeah, they're number 10 in both the AP and the coaches. We've got them at number 8. And like I said, I'm not bothered by them being at number 8. I am bothered by the fact that I know that there's a couple of teams
in front of them
that are ACC or Notre Dame.
Right. Meaning Clemson and Notre Dame are coming up, folks. Terry just spoiled it for us all.
It's hard to say a team named Notre Dame without just saying Notre Dame.
Correct.
Number 7, Texas.
Little low, in my opinion.
A little bit low.
Little bit low.
We got some teams that, like we said, we got some teams we don't think belong in the top 10 that seem to be pretty high for us here.
Yeah, Sarkisian's going to start his season he's going to have that big signature win against Michigan. I believe it's in Ann Arbor. Hook 'em horns. And, then he's going to have a dogfight against Georgia. Welcome to the SEC, sir. But Sark is not afraid. He took down Alabama last year. All that controversy he had with the Final Four was caused by the Texas win over Alabama early in the season. Alabama, of course, was a much different football team by the time they went to Atlanta and beat Georgia for the SEC championship. But with Quinn Ewers back at the quarterback position, with all that, now they've lost 2 running backs, Terry. I did not put this in the notes, but Texas has lost two running backs to season-ending injuries as well. But Texas is one of those schools that they are deep. And so, again, everybody wants to see the Manning kid. They want to see Arch Manning. If Quinn Ewers does what he did last year, you're not going to see Arch Manning. But Texas will play good defense. They'll have good offensive poise. I really, really, really think that Sark is a top 5 coach. The rehab he did with Saban, he's quit drinking. He's very open-minded. He's learning things. He's very zen about things these days. But he's a competitor. Make no mistake about it. Steve Sarkisian wants to win and win big football games. And I think he feels like they were so close in the Washington game last year, so close, and they just couldn't get it done.
That's right. I think they come in. We talk about Texas and Oklahoma coming in. Oklahoma beat Texas last year, but Texas is definitely the team. They made the playoffs. They are the team that we think can come into the SEC and make some waves.
And compete immediately. Compete immediately.
And they've got some depth at quarterback, even with losing one of their 3 quarterbacks to transfer. They've still got 2 solid quarterbacks. So if they get an injury, it's not going to change much.
And there is no consideration of burning a red shirt this year.
That's right.
And that was seriously a consideration last year.
It was. And that was a big reason to stay. It's like, I can keep a red shirt season. I will stay based on that.
No.
Number 6, Clemson.
Too high.
This is a bit high. Now, they are number 14 in the coaches poll, and they are number 14 in the AP poll. So
yeah, and I didn't rank them in the
believes in Clemson.
I would say I can tell you I didn't rank them in the top 10. The days of having Deshaun Watson and Trevor Lawrence in back-to-back recruiting classes is over. The Power Rangers are gone. Brent Venables is the head coach of Oklahoma. Dabo Swinney does not believe in the transfer portal. We got asked by our guys on X today to discuss, some different coaching and that sort of thing. Dabo is set in his ways in that he believes they can build a program, that they have a championship program at Clemson, and maybe they do, but they are the 3rd best team of Florida State, Notre Dame, and Clemson this year. If he does not adapt, he will die. That's kind of the way nature works. Clemson's going to have 3 losses this year. They're going to take a 17-point ass whooping from your Georgia Bulldogs, and it's going to be ugly. That's how that season's going to start for them. And I know you didn't ask me to predict scores yet, Terry, but I mean, I'm dead serious. Georgia is going to put it on Clemson, and Clemson isn't going to have an answer for it because they don't have a very good defense. And when you have the benefit of a Deshaun Watson and a Trevor Lawrence, do you know what those 2 guys have in common? They both playing on Sunday. They both won national championships. They both had great offensive lines and receivers and a defense that kept them in good positions all the time. They don't have that at Clemson anymore. I'm predicting for Clemson Tigers a minimum of 3 losses.
Okay, so I will say I voted. Like I said, I can't recite to you my top 25, but I believe I probably voted Clemson a little higher than number 14. But I did not vote them up this high. I'm thinking that even though I think the pattern is that Dabo doesn't want to use the portal, he's going to lose players to the portal. He's not going to gain players from the portal, and that's a net loss based on the portal for Clemson, and that's the big key problem here. That being said, Clemson is still. I don't think they're quite gone yet. I think they're going to put up a fight, at least for portions of the season, especially if Tyler calls in to the coach show. It'll fire up Dabo, and we might see some fire in his team. So I don't think they're number 6, but I think they still got a little fight in them. Number 5, Oregon, and this is a bit low. Not tremendously low. I mean, I don't know that we're putting them at the top spot, but I think this is probably a couple of spots low.
Well, so did the AP. They put him number 3. I
Yeah.
was a little shocked by that ranking, considering Bo Nix, your elder statesman of the former Auburn Tigers and then the Oregon Ducks, left. But
Yeah.
again, Gabriel is going to replace him
I think
in a
that's
high
a huge
flying
add
offense.
here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're going to play some really good defense at Oregon. They're going to press. How do they respond to the Big Ten is the X factor. The
Mhm.
schedule, the weather, the physicality. Make no mistake about it, it is a different animal than the Pac 12. And, I think there's going to be several teams that find that out this year that the Big Ten is not the Pac 12. I'm comfortable with Oregon anywhere in the top 5 to the top 3. There are very distinct number 1 and 2 in my mind, and we'll get
Yeah.
there in a minute. But I think that anywhere between 3 and 5, especially now when we haven't played a snap, it's a good spot for Oregon. Dan Lanning, more than likely, will be a little bit more conservative because, you always say play to who you are. Well, he gambled twice last year, and twice it cost him championship caliber football games against Washington. So I don't think that you see him do that again. He is a very smart man, 38 years old, a very young, exuberant coach. Colorado was going to beat Oregon's breaks off of Oregon, and that didn't happen. That was not anything even remotely close to what happened. It was the exact opposite. But with Gabriel, they have found an adequate replacement for Nix. I don't think he's going to be the game manager that Bo Nix was. Game
Right.
manager in my world is not an insult. Nix didn't turn the ball over. He didn't make a lot of mistakes at
Right.
Oregon. His reads were correct. He threw the ball.
He's a
Probably was
very
voted a little
scrappy guy. Yeah.
probably voted a little low in the Heisman, to be honest with you, Terry.
Mhm.
But and I don't say that for the benefit of you folks listening because Terry's an Auburn guy and Bo Nix was an Auburn guy. What I'm saying is Bo Nix had command of the offense. If
That's right.
Gabriel can do that same thing, then the Oregon Ducks will be just fine. The big test early is against Ohio State. And then they've got several other games where they're going to have to travel. But Ohio State is playing them in Eugene. So that is advantage Ducks because you're not playing them in Columbus. And we will cover that game when we get to it. I think it's week 3 or 4. It is early. It is early in the season.
Eugene, Oregon. I may be flying into Eugene, Oregon at some point. Just a thought out there. But anyway, you made a good point about changing to the Big Ten and it being a different style of football. And the Big Ten is not the Pac 12. I think the Big 12 is about to become the Pac 12. And
The
I
Big
think
12
that
sucks.
it does, but it's about to become that late night, all offense kind of conference because the Big Ten is established as what they are. And I think Oregon and I think USC and Washington and UCLA are going to probably adapt a little bit to play in the Big Ten. I think the other way with Texas and Oklahoma leaving the Big 12 and the teams from the Pac 12 coming into the Big 12, I think they are going to impact the style of play in the Big 12 more than the teams that are going to the Big 10.
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree with that mostly, but Utah is going to
Oh, yeah. They're the
dominate
exception.
the Big 12.
They are.
They're going to dominate the Big 12. The only team I see giving Utah a fight will be Okie State. And that's just because the man has been there so long. He's got his guns blazing. But and we haven't got to Utah, I don't think, unless I missed him in the bottom 25. But
They may be missing, and
that's a mistake
that's a
if that's
huge
the case.
missing there. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but anyway, I agree with you. Oregon's got that physical nature that they're going to fit right in. It depends on what Jed Fish gets out of his Washington guys. USC is going to fold like a lawn chair. They are not ready for the Big Ten, and UCLA is just happy to be there. So let's see number 4, Terry.
Number 4 is Notre Dame.
Woo! Little high, but it's all right.
A little high. There's a lot of people. I've seen a lot of criticism of how high Notre Dame is in the AP and the coaches. They are number 7 in both. We got them at number 4 here. There's a lot of thoughts about Riley Leonard. He was a critical piece at Duke,
Mhm.
but playing at Duke ain't the same as playing at Notre Dame.
And let's make no mistake about it, the Hartman leaving Notre Dame, that's a big deal.
Right.
He was a great contributor to Notre Dame. I think Notre Dame proved when they played Ohio State last year that they could play with anybody. And I think maybe that's what people are looking at. I don't know that Leonard is a better quarterback than Hartman. He might be a little bit more gutsy, a little
Yeah.
tougher guy, because we know he played with a blown out knee. He's still playing against Clemson in Duke's victory. Now, Marcus Freeman will get the most out of his players. I hate to compliment an Ohio State guy, but that young coach gets the most out of his players. They believe, they buy in, and so I think that's probably what we're going to see at Notre Dame this year. Notre Dame perennially overrated again and again and again. Are they a top 10 team? Probably. And we'll get to the predictions shortly, but I don't know that they belong at 4, to be perfectly honest. I would swap Notre Dame and Ole Miss, be quite frank.
That's true.
Or Notre Dame and Florida State, to be quite frank.
I was thinking when obviously I know these beforehand because somebody's got to put the graphics together. I have not convinced AI to do this for me quite yet. Maybe that's a project to work on. But I was thinking I would probably swap Clemson and Clemson and Ole Miss when I first looked at it. But Notre Dame and Ole Miss is a decent swap there too.
Yeah. But anyway, Notre Dame will be fun to watch. They're going to play a lot of ACC games. And I think their schedule is favorable to them doing very, very well this year.
All right. Let's hit the top 3. Number 3, Ohio State.
Y'all wrong. Every single person that voted in this poll is wrong because Ohio State is number 2. Well, I hate Ohio State. The hatred goes back to 90.
Who's too high here? We haven't talked about them yet.
Yeah, it's too high. Alabama is too high, and Ohio State is too low. Ohio State is the number 2 team in the country. They spent $25 million getting their team put together. They're not going for a Big Ten championship. It's not about beating Michigan. This is about winning the national championship under Ryan Day with the help of Chip Kelly, his new offensive coordinator. I take issue with the fact that Ohio State is number 3, but it's always church, ladies and gentlemen. Fuck Ohio State today, tomorrow, and forever. Terry, your thoughts on Ohio State?
Ohio State's number 2. I think you obviously I put Georgia number 1. I put Ohio State number 2, just like the AP poll. My top 3 were the same as the AP and the coaches: Georgia, Ohio State, Oregon. I just think Alabama's a little bit high here, but good reason. They haven't been lower than the top couple of teams in a preseason poll in a long time. It's going to take some time for people to release that. And I think that's what we're seeing.
Agreed. Ohio State.
But they are stacked. Ohio State is stacked. They've got depth. They've got talent.
You're going to see speed, power, quickness. If you want to see how to assemble a football team for your NCAA 25 game, watch Ohio State this year, ladies and gentlemen.
All right. Number 2, Alabama. And it's going to be a big question mark. They've been rolling for a long time. They've got DeBoer in now. I don't know what to expect. I don't want to vote them too low to begin the season because I burned myself with that thought process before. But I don't know.
17 seasons. The greatest coach of all time led this team and won 6 national titles. All the SEC championships, 29 losses. I said when he announced his retirement last year, Terry, I said that I can't believe anybody wants to be Nick Saban's replacement. And Kalen DeBoer was hired within 48 hours
of the announcement? It had to be 48 hours, something like that.
It was very fast. Kalen,
there were other rumors in that 48 hours, but yeah, he was the guy.
yeah, Kalen DeBoer looks like he's loosened the reins at Alabama. The one thing he's going to benefit from is Nick Saban's recruiting. Jalen Milroe is not the same quarterback that started last year that will start this year. At the SEC championship game that I had the pleasure of being at with our producer for my birthday last year, Jalen Milroe was poised and commanded the offense. I think Alabama is a playoff team. I think they're a top 10 team. They might be a top 5 team, but they are not number 2 in the country. That belongs to Ohio State. Alabama is going to be tested. They're going to be tested by Georgia early. They've got Ole Miss. I'm not even. They've got Auburn. Me and Terry are planning to go to that game. There's going to be plenty of competition for Alabama. Plenty to see if they really are the real deal or not. Yeah, they got to play Texas too, if I'm not mistaken. So bottom line,
they play Texas. Auburn plays Oklahoma.
That's right. So they play Auburn. They play Texas. They play Alabama. They play Georgia, and they play Georgia early. So that's going to dictate what kind of happens in the SEC. Nobody is discrediting Alabama's pedigree, but the GOAT isn't there anymore. And when he left, you saw playmakers like Isaiah Bond, who made the catch at 4-31 against Auburn, leave. And do you know where Isaiah Bond is now, Terry?
No.
Texas.
NFL? Texas. Okay.
Texas.
Interesting.
So, like, Ewers needed a target to throw to, right? But I'll wrap up my thoughts on Alabama with this. They are Alabama. They're not going to dip down as much as people think they're going to do. They're going to be very competitive. They have a coach who is a winner. Kalen DeBoer has won everywhere he's gone with far less resources than what the University of Alabama is going to give him and has committed to him. So the Tide will be in the conversation. They just don't belong in this one.
All right. So that means that we got one team left, and it should be obvious. The Georgia Bulldogs, we've been putting them up at the top spot for years now. Sometimes they win it, sometimes they don't, but here they are.
Two-time national champions, 3 times in a row, undefeated regular seasons. The only 2 losses Kirby Smart has taken in the last 3 seasons have been in the SEC championship game. Absolutely drummed Florida State's B team last year, 63-3 in the Orange Bowl. Kirby is the greatest disciple Nick Saban ever had. This is Georgia's season to lose. Now, all that being said, Terry, they have the second most difficult schedule in the league, in the entire NCAA. They play Texas, they play Alabama, they play Auburn, I believe. They play Tennessee.
I think
Ole Miss,
they play Auburn the week after Alabama.
And Florida. And Clemson. They the big game Clemson, and I'd say that's going to be 17 points. But here's the thing. They're returning 16 starters, including Carson Beck, who is a fantastic quarterback. Kirby's going to get the defense. You're going to see the exotic blitzes and the coverages and the tightness. This is going to be Georgia's to lose. So that's why I asked the question, Terry, who's that coming down the track? And you know the answer, buddy. It's the Mean Machine in the red and black. Until someone takes Georgia down, they will be number 1.
I think so. Well, so let's run it down. Number 10, Ole Miss. Number 9, Michigan. Number 8, Florida State. Number 7, Texas. Number 6, Clemson. Number 5, Oregon. Number 4, Notre Dame. Number 3, Ohio State. Number 2, Alabama. And the number 1 team in the preseason poll for TNA Top 10 for 2024 is the Georgia Bulldogs.
The Bulldogs. Hoo, hoo, hoo.
All right. So now we've talked about preseason. Let's talk about what will happen when the season starts. And we're going to do some playoff predictions. So I got a few questions. This is similar to what we were doing with the conference predictions. I'm going to keep it simple. We're just going to pick the teams. I got a pattern here. Not necessarily the seeds, because that gets real complicated to pick that. But let's start with, and we've kind of already said this, SEC champion. You go first.
Georgia.
Georgia Bulldogs, Andrew says, and that is the same thing that I got. We both support Georgia winning the SEC. Big Ten champion.
Ohio State.
I've also got Ohio State. We need to disagree on something, and it may start here. Big 12 champ.
Utah.
All right. I'm going to go with the man. He's like, this is my league, buddy. Don't come in here thinking you're going to win this.
Have
I'm going to
another
go
drink,
with the
Barry.
golden mullet with his drunk driving ways. And I'm not saying he's drunk driving. I'm saying one of his players was the drunk driver and he didn't care. Anyway, Oklahoma State Cowboys, the man leading them, he's not going to let go of the Big 12. I think they're going to win it this year. ACC champ, I think we agree here.
Florida State.
Florida State. All right, here's an interesting one. There will be one more champion. I'm going to go with Liberty. I believe Liberty has another cakewalk schedule, just like they had last year. They're going to get geared up and be undefeated and get put in the playoffs and get completely stomped in the first round. Who are you going with here?
Did they lose their coach, though?
I don't think they did.
Who was the guy that went to Indiana? That might be the guy I pick.
I don't know.
Because I was not actually prepared to pick a non-power school champion.
Oh. Well, the ones that are available, you got to think about. Liberty. Let's see, others receiving votes that were not in preseason. I'll try to look this up real quick. I'll look at the others receiving votes to get a decent list for you here. So you've got Liberty, you've got Boise State, Air Force. Those are probably the three top ones, I would say.
I mean, it's hard to bet against Liberty. Kurt Cignetti was the guy's name. Kurt Cignetti is the one who took over Indiana football. But he came from somewhere. And I forget where he came from. But so you're saying it's Air Force, Liberty. Who else, Terry? Air Force,
Liberty, and Boise State was also in that list.
Hell, let's go Boise State.
All right.
Let's be different. Let's go with Boise State because I hate their field. The blue carpet sucks. Trying to watch that on HD and television is absolutely ridiculous.
So I'm saying Notre Dame is in.
I agree. Notre Dame is in. And they're in. Yeah, they're in pretty high.
Right. No higher than 6 or no higher than 5, actually. I guess it is, based on that rule you talked about earlier.
But it's not true. But no, we have it wrong. If you read the rule, I stuck it in the notes, and we can read it out loud and see if our listeners agree with our interpretation of it. But it's a silly rule as far as I'm concerned. The 4 highest ranked conference champions will be seeded 1 through 4 and will receive a first round bye. Okay, that makes sense. So the SEC, the Big 10, the Big 12, and the ACC, they're all going to get a bye. The 5th conference champion will be seeded where it was ranked or at number 12 if it's outside the top 12 rankings.
Okay.
So top 25 Liberty could be number 12, or if they were ranked number 7, they're going to get the 7th seed. That's the way I read that. Yeah. But that has been tweaked compared to how they proposed it originally, because it was originally that team was getting the 5 spot automatic. So anyway, and then it says 12 ranked non-conference champions ranked in the top 4 will be seeded beginning at number 5. Because of this, the seeding 1 through 12 could look different than the final rankings. Right. So Ohio, I guess Notre Dame can be number 5 but that's all they can hope for is to be number
Right.
5 and
Number
not number
5
6.
at
So
most.
we had said previously that they could be as high as 6. They can actually be as high as 5. But again, that
Okay.
also depends on where that 5th team gets ranked, Terry.
That's right. Okay, so let's just list who we think the other 6 teams are, because both of us put Notre Dame in, so that means half the slots are gone. We didn't say which seeds they were because that gets real complicated. We don't have a graphic for it.
Okay, let's start with the SEC. I think it's Alabama, Texas, Ole Miss, Missouri.
Okay.
And you can document what you think.
All right. So I've already got mine listed. You've got 4 teams, 4 of the other 6. I've got 3 more. I've got Alabama, Texas, Ole Miss.
So you don't think Missouri makes it?
I don't think there's enough room because I think there's enough push from other conferences.
Okay.
Let's head to the Big Ten. Who do we think?
Oregon.
And that's the only one?
Yep.
Okay. So I've got, and this kind of goes against what I had stated a little bit, but I got Penn State here also. Oregon and Penn State. Let's head over to, let's see, the Big 12. You got anybody else in the Big 12 other than Utah, who was your champion?
Oh, I'm going to need another team. Utah only.
Okay. And then we go to the ACC.
Florida State, Notre Dame is who I've got, right?
Yeah.
I don't think Clemson gets in. I think they're 3 losses. So if you're going
to
to
have another team somewhere.
I'm going to have another team. And if it's going to come out of the Big Ten, Big Ten.
So the ones that you've got from the Big Ten right now are the champion Ohio State, and you have Oregon.
Yep.
So that leaves Michigan. That leaves Penn State.
USC.
USC? You got USC?
Not USC. God, no. God,
okay.
no. I'm just
you were just
teams.
listing them. Okay.
Iowa. You could say Iowa because they got the weak schedule. But if you're going to go with Penn State, I'm going to go with Michigan.
All right. So that puts your 6. I've got my 6. And me picking Oklahoma State, here's what I did. I put Utah as the second team in the Big 12 based on picking Oklahoma State. So I've got Alabama, Texas, Ole Miss from the SEC as part of those 6. I've got Oregon and Penn State, and then I've got Utah sitting there to finish it off.
All makes sense.
All right. So based on those 12, who's in the final game?
Georgia and I'm going to go with Oregon with the upset.
All right. So you're picking Oregon to beat Georgia in the final.
No. Georgia's going to win. But I'm picking Oregon instead of Ohio State. Yep.
Okay. So you're picking Georgia to beat Oregon in the final.
Yes.
I picked an upset that Georgia doesn't make it, and I've got Ohio State versus Texas, with Ohio State beating Texas in the final game.
There we go.
So there we go.
We're probably all going to be wrong, but you know.
But hey, we got to pick something, right? Watch Washington keep rolling out of nowhere. Nobody expects it.
Buddy, nobody gave them any respect. We joked about it last week, but the AP and the coaches poll did not give Washington any love.
Well, they listened to us too much last year, I guess.
Maybe. Well, we were wrong all year, like you said.
So we did put out the pick'em. We will normally, at this point of the show, pick the top competitive games. I think both of us think Florida State's winning this game against Georgia Tech, right?
3 or 4 touchdowns. They're going to run away with it late. Yeah.
So we're not gonna do any picks this week just because there aren't any games to really pick. They're just 5 games. None of them are really that close matchup like we're going to start getting next week. So we're going to hold off on that. But we have put the pick 'em out there. It's on social media with TNA Top 10. For those who have followed us on Twitter, we've got a new Twitter for TNA Top 10 that allows us to do this streaming. We had to create a different kind of account because the kind of account we had before would not let us stream. So please follow the new one. The new one on Facebook and on Twitter has shared the link to ESPN fantasy games for the college football pick'em. That's out there. We'll continue to share that probably throughout the season. You can probably join even if you end up late. So we'll try to put that out there. That should be fun. We'll try to update the results of that, and we'll do our regular picks like we always have. Um, I think that's about it for the show. We put our thoughts out there. The 12 teams we think are making the playoffs and who we think is going to win it. What else do we have to talk about today, Andrew? Anything college football related that we need to get into that we haven't?
Um, no, I don't think so. Not this week, buddy. Next week we'll have a lot bigger preview show. We're gonna have some friends from the Ram Network join us as quote guest pickers.
Yep.
And that'll be exciting. I think we obviously want everybody to participate in the pick'em. It's fun. Last year's champion, Bryant Haremza, will be joining us. He edged me out in the bowl game victory, bragged about it, demanded a trophy. I told him he won't get no damn trophy. But what we'll do is we'll allow you to come on the show and be a guest picker.
Right.
So Bryant has generously accepted to be a guest picker. His date is locked in. We're going to find a few others to join us as well, some of our friends. It says, I will win again. Yeah, you're overconfident, sir, that you will win again. But that's okay. He's going to join us for the date that if you plan a wedding for, you are a god-awful and horrible person, and that's October the 12th. And anybody who has seen the little graphic for October the 12th understands that's a big day in college football with 4 top 15 matchups as of right now. So do not call, do not write, and do not text me. But no, everybody, please join us for the fun. This only works with you guys. Like the one thing Terry and I did last year, because we were the 2 voters, was tied a lot. We need more participation. So that we
I'm so glad that I'm not making those graphics with all those stupid tiebreakers and stuff.
Oh my God, tiebreaker rules, etc. So we need everybody's participation. If you like us,
so much
if you like our show, if you like what we do, just vote. Like Terry said at the top, we're going to try to figure out these logistics. I think we've got the polling figured out, that we're going to use the coaches poll, the AP poll, and teams receiving votes. That's going to give you probably 30 to 35 teams to pick. And this is TNA Top 10.
It was
so we ranked the
54
top
this
10.
week. So
How many?
More. I think it was 54 this week.
Yeah. But it won't be after we start actually playing ball games.
Yeah.
So I think that's probably the best way to do this. But the other thing, like Terry mentioned, this is TNA Top 10. So do we pick the top 10 or do we pick the top 12?
I
or
think
do we pick
do.
15 or do we pick 25? Send us some feedback. Let us know what you guys want to pick. I lean towards 10 or 15. 10 because this is TNA Top 10. 15 because you get the 12 playoff teams plus the outside 3.
I think we do 10, and I think we need more voters. So let's push it out there. Share with your friends. Vote early, vote often. Only once a week, though. Don't be cheating on us now.
Even though you just said vote early and vote often. Whatever. But no, next week, first weekend of football is 0 week, which is kind of lame, but we'll get to see what Florida State looks like. That'll be a big deal, at least for Dave. And we'll see if DJ has gotten rid of the jitters that he had when he played in Clemson. So we'll find out.
That's right. All right. If there's nothing else, thank you, Andrew. This has been fun. I can't wait till next week where we're going to put our names on the line with some picks to some individual ball games. That'll start being fun. And we'll have Bryant on to help us do that, and that'll be great. And we'll keep records of this stuff, and we'll take a look at it as we go. Thank you, Andrew. Thank you, Allison. Thank you, everybody that joined in. Thank you, everybody that voted. Please join the pick'em. Please share with all your friends. Please vote on the polls. And if you got any good ideas, please let us know. We love talking about this, and we would love talking about it with you. So if you got any thoughts, please share those with us. But before I go, just as I always say, be a champ this week in everything that you do. See you guys next time. Thanks for coming.